Aloha everyone and welcome to another Tinkers Academy video. I'm your host Kay Elmer and this video is a product review of Beck Zappers, otherwise known as Beck Zappers and or blood electrifiers for the purpose of blood electrification. So I've got several of these things myself. I wanted to share with you the differences between them, explain the basics on how to use it and where you can get yours. So if you're interested in that material, let me just jump in real quick and throw some disclaimers at you. This video is absolutely not medical advice, blah, 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 no affiliation. Oh, and I have no affiliation with any products mentioned. I don't sell them. I don't affiliate for them. But there are some cautions you should be aware if you're going to decide to do the Beck protocol and or just doing blood electrification all by itself. The first thing is, it is a microcurrent device. So anytime you use anything that's going to put electrical current and voltage into your body, if you have electrical implants, don't do it. Okay, there's just absolutely no reason to take a risk. If you've got a device inside your body somewhere that runs on electricity, you certainly don't want to be zapping yourself with electricity in the event that you could possibly hurt and or damage whatever's in you. So that's just absolutely not recommended. The other thing too, there's just not enough research, and in fact there's no research that I've ever seen about using blood electrification devices and parasite zappers on pregnant people and people in super ill health who just don't have the ability to manage a detox reaction. Now also too, the scars are problematic with current flow in the body. Just be aware of that. Now, from a standpoint of probe placement, this only comes into play if you decide to get creative, but if you stick with the standard wrist placement, you should be fine. And the other thing too about the zappers is that there's an issue called transfection that you really need to be aware about. Bob Beck was very adamant and very vocal about being cautious of this issue. And what that means simply is that when you pump electrical current into your body, specifically into your blood, I mean, even more so in your blood, what it does is it creates a situation called electroporation of your cells. And what that means is that it basically, think about it this way, a ping pong ball versus a golf ball. Okay, how a ping pong ball is completely smooth all the way around. That's an analogy of what any one of your cells is, and the exterior of the ping pong ball obviously is your cell wall now, or membrane. Now the thing about electricity is when you're subjecting your body to electricity, this thing, this action called electroporation occurs, and it basically causes divots in your cellular membrane. Okay, and then it starts to look like a golf ball with all these little divots in it, and every one of those little divots in your cell membrane is a thinning of the membrane wall. And what that allows, or what that causes, is that anything that is in your blood or anything that's in your lymphatic system that's going to come into contact with that cell or those cells that have been electroporated is going to be able to get inside that cell a lot easier because the membranes have thinned out. That's my elevator pitch for that. In other words, what Bob Beck recommended was don't take pharmaceuticals, don't take strong supplements, don't take anything within an hour before and several hours after zapping, because your cells are able to absorb much more from their environment. To give you an example that I believe he stated in one of his lectures, that if you drink one beer and while you're zapping, it's like drinking 10 beers. And so, and that goes with everything that's going to be in your bloodstream. So be very careful about pharmaceuticals, alcohol, anything else you could have in your body 1 hour before and 2 hours after, until the electroporation effect of your cells diminishes and you go back to normal. So it's called transfection, and take it seriously. Now, for best results using microcurrent devices, which include zappers, is optimal hydration and mineralization is required. This is electricity, and if you're not well hydrated and you're not well mineralized, the electricity just won't flow very well or as well in your body. And so you just want to be in optimal condition for conductivity, electrical conductivity, and you just want to be hydrated and mineralized. Okay. Last thing too is when you're using probes, electrodes on your skin in any form or any manner whatsoever, you want to have clean skin. You want the absolute less or the least amount of I guess barrier between the probe and your skin. Okay, so just having it clean, and also having clean probes. Make sure your electrodes are clean. If you have metal electrodes, it's really good just to take a scrubby and polish them up and get the get all of that tarnish off of them. Other probes don't need that, but if you're using metal probes, definitely keep them clean and remove the tarnish. Again, you don't want anything, you want the least amount of stuff between the actual electrode and your skin. So make sure your probes are clean and your skin is clean. Now, in terms of what is a Beck Zapper, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I did two entire videos about the Bob Beck protocol, and one that was specifically about blood electrification. And that's what it is. A Beck Zapper is a blood electrifier for the purposes of blood electrification. And there's a whole science behind it. There's a couple of guys in the Einstein hospital or something in New York. I forget. It's in the video. Anyway, these two guys discovered that and they did a patent on it, and then Bob Beck took it and developed and commercialized it. But the idea was quite simply is that these scientists discovered that when you subject your blood to a certain level of voltage, a certain level of milliamps current, or like millicurrent, microcurrent, right, and frequency, that the effect on pathogens it didn't kill them, it stunned them, so that they were not able to then go and affect your cells. In other words, it's like a stun gun on pathogens. It disables them, and then your body then naturally will flush it out like it normally would. Like your blood gets clean through your liver, etc. Your lymphatic system and urinary system and all that is going to then purge all that stuff out. So it was originally designed now to treat HIV. This is what Bob Beck decided to do. Was he originally designed this to treat HIV, because this was back in the 80s when HIV was the pandemic of the day, and it worked really, really, really well. He actually spent a lot of money. He went outside of the U.S., did clinical trials all by himself, came back, ton of data. Unfortunately, he never published that data, but he clearly stipulated that he had done multiple clinical trials with HIV patients to try to help them, because at the time there was nothing to treat these guys, if you're old enough to remember. And so he was very successful at it, and numerous HIV patients were cured using the Bob Beck protocol as a whole protocol. But this particular thing, the Zapper, is simply one step of the multiple steps of the protocol. But you can, and this is the thing about blood electrification, is I use mine all the time just by itself, and I only do the whole protocol if I ever get sick, which I rarely get sick. So I just do blood electrification all the time, and I do it specifically now more so just to fight off an infection if I were to have some small wound or large wound as well, and I also do it for detoxing. So that's what it does. It eliminates the pathogens in your blood, and it does it really well. And so when I mean pathogens, I mean bacteria, viruses, molds, fungi. If you have ever looked at videos of people's bloods, there's a lot more floating around in there than just the blood cells, right? There's a white blood cell and a red blood cell. Well, all that other stuff that you see in the video of, when you're doing dark field microscopy, that's all pathogens. And so this is what will get rid of that. So a lot of people who have mold issues, this is a perfect modality to use in terms of blood electrification to detox from that mold. I highly recommend that. Now, as I mentioned, fighting infections, I have been using Beck Zappers for almost 20 years, and I've used it every single time when I would have otherwise gone to an allopath and been prescribed antibiotics, which I do not take. And 100% of the time, I have absolutely cured any issue that I've had with an infected wound, and even an abscess, like you'd get an abscess in your tooth or something, which I've done. And so, yeah, this works 100% of the time for me. I don't take antibiotics. Instead, I use the Zapper. It's a drug-free, no side effect approach towards fighting infections. And also, again, it's great for pathogen detox, which is what I primarily do now. So that's what this Zapper does. It does blood electrification. It is one part of a multi-step Beck protocol. And it is a incredible tool that I really highly recommend everybody look into and have one at home. They're not that expensive, and they do remarkable at what they're supposed to do. So now let's talk about the different types of Beck Zappers. Now there's three basic types of Zappers, and one is just the single purpose. All it does, and this is a couple of examples of single purpose Beck Zappers and the prices you'll find today out there online. And what it does is what these devices do, they're single purpose. They only do blood electrification, and using the schematic that Dr. Bob Beck had created, which, by the way, he open sourced it. He didn't want the pharma companies to grab it, put a patent on it, and then, and then hide it from the world and or charge people, hundreds of dollars for the treatment. Instead, he open sourced it. He came up with the idea. He invented the device. He threw it out there on the internet for anyone to build. And so you've got a lot of independent people building them. And you've also got companies who've completely commercialized it as a product. So if you get a quote, if you look at one of these things and it's got a single jack and it just does Beck zapping, then that's all it does is blood electrification. It's a single purpose zapper. Now there's a thing called a dual purpose zapper, which is what the Beck protocol, it kind of was meant for the Beck protocol specifically instead of just for blood electrification. And one really good example of that is a product that I'll show you in the demo video in a second called the Soda Instruments Silver Pulsar. Now that Silver Pulsar was the original one. It runs around $295, but they have now, as of last year, they came out with a Silver Pulsar Lite model, and that sells for $150. So it's a really great bargain in terms of being able to get an actual Beck protocol zapper. And what I mean by that is that part of the protocol is to take colloidal silver while you're zapping. And so what these dual purpose zappers do is it not only provides the blood electrification feature, but it also has a feature so you can use the same zapper to create your colloidal silver before you start zapping, so you can combine the two. So you basically have a Beck zapper combined with a colloidal silver maker, and that's the dual purpose. So there's also this other one called the combos. Now, because it's open source, people have been building these things for years. And so they've combined it with other modalities, and so you end up getting a Beck zapper that's a combination of other types of modalities. So here's one right here on the left side. It's this from Altered States. Now they've built one, and that it's all a Beck zapper. It's a Bob Beck zapper, but it's also got Hulda Clark frequencies. If you're familiar with Dr. Hulda Clark, who's another very famous alternative doctor in the parasite detox environment. And so she came up with her own modalities, she's written several books, all really great stuff, highly recommend. But her focus was completely on parasites, whereas Beck was completely on pathogens, which is, so they're on the same team, but they came at it from different perspectives. So the Hulda Clark zapper has different features or different modes that are specific to parasites now, and that's parasites living everywhere else in your body outside of your blood. So now they've taken Altered States as the maker of this model. It's called the Bioelectric Pulsar. So it does Beck zapping, Hulda Clark zapping, it does magnetic pulsing, and it also makes the colloidal silver generator. And now this is a little bit more pricey. It's $350 for obvious reasons. It's got a lot more features in it. Now there's other combos out there. There's one by a guy, they call his line of products is called the Para Zappers. And then there's this one here from a guy, his name is Michael Forster, and he's got 3 or 4 different models, and he combines the Beck zapping with other frequencies you can use, including Clark zapping frequencies. The Para Zapper is by far the most comprehensive combo out there, and I think it provides up to, 30 or more. I mean, there's just a whole list of all of these different modes you could try in terms of zapping, including Beck. And so now you can see where the base model is 176. It goes up to 459 for the most, comprehensive, device that they sell at that website, at the Zapper website. And then, of course, you got Mike Forrester. He's also kind of referred to as Dragonfly. And the Dragonfly Zappers go from 125 to 175. So, it's all really relatively inexpensive, in my opinion. And you've got multiple choices on what you want to do. And so that's when, obviously, when you're picking a Zapper and you want to try one or buy one, you just keep in mind what you need it for. So real quick though, I do want to point out there's this issue about electrode placement, and so really, it's just this little box, right? You've got a little box or a little handheld unit, and the way you do it is you just take your probe, which is just a cord plugs into your Zapper, and then you put the probes on either side of your wrist, right above your main arteries going into your hand. One of the ways that the universe created us was we have two main arteries into our hand. In case one gets severed, your hand still works. It's one of those evolutionary things. And so you want to find both of them, with like taking a pulse, find them, put the electrode above that, wet the sleeve that it's in, strap it on, and turn on your Zapper. That's really it. Now, this is the way that Beck told everybody to use it, but there's also another way where you can put the probe up, just basically place it along a single arterial, artery coming into your hand, okay? But the main thing is this, the reason he picked this area is it's because it's the closest place on your body where you could put something on your skin where the current will pulse through, or not pulse, but be, basically broadcast through your bloodstream. Everywhere else, we're all kind of thick. So right there on your wrist is the closest place where you're going to get the best optimal, zapping of your bloodstream is on your wrist. Now, there's also a main artery on your ankle that's also used by some people. So the whole idea, though, is this is the basic way of doing it. This is how I do it. But other people have gotten creative over the years, so I wanted to just point that out in terms of they place two probes along one artery. They place, there's people that do placing one probe on each wrist along the main artery, which is this big one right here near your thumb. There's also people that'll do one wrist and then one on their ankle at the other artery, so that they're doing a pulsing across their entire body. So there's different ways to do it. I just want to point out though that this is the basic way, the mainstream way of doing it, if you were to refer to that way. And the key thing about the probe placement, obviously is like, hey, if you do one on your leg and one on your wrist, you're mobile. You're not walking around. I mean, it's just, this comes down to ease of use, but what's effective is this way. And I recommend it. It just works for me, and I've never had an issue with it. So that's that there. Now, in terms of trying to pick one out, again, you want to just, what's your objective? If you just want to do blood electrification, then, go for a cheap single-use model. If you want to do the Beck protocol, get the dual-purpose one, of course. And if you want to do a lot more, and you want to tinker around and figure out, try different things, then definitely a combo model will work for you. And so that's there. And then your budget, according, is whatever you can afford. And then the last thing too, I want to point out, and this is going to be in my demo video coming up, it's just the ease of use. Now, all of these different devices, and I have 4 of them, 4 different models. Now, all of these different devices, they have different accessories, they have different types of probes, they have different conveniences, they have different, model, basically, how to use them, how to use the device. And so there's a huge issue about, ease of use and maintenance. That really comes up, and I cover that in the video. And lastly, too, I do cover one more time the quality of electrodes. And so it really is important that you've got good electrodes. If you don't have good electrodes, they're not going to zap very well, and the machine and the device won't work as well for you. So there you go. So let's go ahead and go through the demo video and give you some idea of what the differences are, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, let's talk Beck Zappers, or otherwise known as blood electrification, which then resulted in Dr. Beck inventing what he called the blood electrification device. Also then became the, quote, Beck Zapper. Its primary purpose is to purify your blood of pathogens, and I've got a whole video explaining how blood electrification works. So these are the devices that I own, that I've been tinkering around with, and I just kind of want to walk you through the pluses and minuses of them, so you kind of have an idea if you're out there looking for a Beck Zapper for yourself. These are some choices, okay? So the very first one here now, this is my oldest one. This goes back, I don't know, 15, 20 years, but this came from a company called Silver Smoke Research. They're no longer around. I'm just sharing this to kind of show you the evolution, but you know, these were all really designed before they got commercialized, like you'll see in the next couple of other devices. But you know, basically tinkers were basically creating these things at home and selling them on eBay. And so this is your typical, you know, electronics project box, and he basically put the circuitry in here, and you can kind of see from inside this thing. But there's your breadboard and all the circuitry that the guy made. It runs on 3 9-volt batteries, and like I said, I've had this about, I don't know, 15, 20 years. This is my go-to. This is seriously my go-to. I love this thing. It's a workhorse. It's never broken down ever. And so I ended up getting a couple of them. And so I took out the circuitry out of the box and I put it in this little satchel, this little bag. And then the reason I did it was that I could put an armband on it. So right now I pretty much use this one the most because I can strap it right to my arm. With the electrodes coming to my wrist, and it allows me to just, you know, keep doing chores and whatever I need to do while I'm zapping. So but yeah, this is probably one of the best ones out there, but unfortunately you can't buy one anymore. But I kind of wanted to show you that, you know, years and years and years have gone by. I've actually ended up making my own probes. So it just basically uses, and all of them use a, you know, the 1/8 inch jack. You plug it in. This model itself had the Zapper output, and then also it has the for making colloidal silver outputs. It's a dual purpose device for both purposes. I've made my own probes over time using just pure silver wire, and of course you know, the cord, the strap. Now if you know, all of these electrodes need to be covered with this really disgusting, I probably need to wash cotton sleeve. So this is just a piece of cotton, somebody's t-shirt, sewed up into a little sleeve, and you put the probe in this sleeve, wet it down, and then put it in place on your wrist, and then there's this little cheap nut, you know, strap to hold it in. So it's real rinky-dink, Mickey Mouse, old school. I don't remember paying more than $100 for this, but it works, and it works great. So then going to the next model now, this is from a guy, I believe in Slovakia or Romania or something like that. His name is Badar. And so when he originally came on the scene about a decade ago, he actually was selling Beck Zapper kits, and you could buy the kit. And so I bought one, thinking that I was electronically assembly gifted enough to go ahead and get a soldering iron and put it together. And of course you can see this bag still sitting there after 10 plus years, to show you how much I really care about electronic assembly. But anyway, he eventually came out with this, which he started actually selling the device itself. And so I called this, you know, there's really no name for it, but the website is like, you know, Electronic Kit Complete, because that's how he started selling kits. But then he started selling the completed model, and so I just called this my Badar. Now this is a single purpose Beck Zapper. It's only got one output jack, and that's just to zap. It works fairly okay. The thing about this is whenever I buy anything, I usually buy 2 of them. One I keep and one I give to the kid, so that, you know, she's been trained. And so I gave her one, and hers didn't work, mine worked. So, you know, this does zap, mine does, so it's got a 50-50 chance of it working. And the thing though I don't like about this, and I don't recommend, is because he uses these. So unless you're going to make your own probes, he gives you these little rust, you know, they end up rusting because it's been 10 years, right? You can see the rust on it. But I guess it's kind of not totally stainless steel if it's rusting or tarnishing. But these are the probes that he uses. So he basically gives you the cord and the probe, and you can see right here that, you know, this is how it fits in. It fits into the rear end of the little probe. And while it's nice that it's big, right, because it's a lot easier to work with than just a freaking piece of wire in terms of, you know, placement on your wrist. The problem is, if you notice, it falls out really easy. This thing pops out so easy, it drives me nuts trying to use it, because it would constantly unplug And so I just really hate using this one. So I don't recommend the Badar, even though it's cheap. It's like 89 bucks, but maybe that's why you get what you pay for, right? Again, it comes with the little cotton sleeves, except he's using felt, and the cheapo wrist snap. And that's kind of the Badar. Ta-da! Now this other one here, this is from a guy called, his name is Michael Forster, and I forgot the name of his website, but it's Dragonfly is in the URL. I'll give all the links in the video description. This guy was interesting. He's another DIY build his own in his house, and he then sells them online. And so the unique thing about this Beck Zapper from, I would just call it Dragonfly, Michael Forster, was that he not only put in the 4 hertz, it's 3.95 hertz for Beck, right? So you get a X number of milliamps. So you just set it at 4 hertz right here, DC on, and then turn up the volume, right? It's got those singular jacks, so it's a single purpose Beck Zapper, but then in this mode, it is a Beck Zapper. But he also added on the AC converter in there, so you could try AC if you wanted. You can also go 40 hertz or 10 hertz. So he kind of added a couple extra frequencies in there if you want to play around with it. Every one of these frequencies have different healing modalities, but 4 hertz or 3.95 is what the Beck Zapper does. So this is what he put out. And for this puppy, oh geez, I don't remember what I paid for it, but it was like 200 bucks or something. The thing about this guy, and the reason that I don't recommend this one either, and it's not a bad device, it's just, unless you make your own probes, okay? I recommend if you get this, you make your own probes, because this is what he provides for probes. It's just denim. It's just a square of denim. And look how big this is, I mean, compared to your wrist, right? And so because of this square of denim, you basically take, these are the probes. Instead of using metal, right? You're using a piece of denim, you wet it, put it on your wrist, and then you plug this into the device, and then you then use your little alligator clips, and then you clamp onto that piece of denim, right? And that's it. Now, of course, he did provide 2 little denim sleeves if you want to go ahead and get probes. Or buy probes, make probes, right, to be able to use with the device. But if you don't do that, you're stuck with using these. And I'm telling you, I tried it once and it sucked. It was just, I don't recommend it, because it stings like hell, because you are literally zapping your entire wrist instead of 2 places on your wrist, which is all Beck wanted you to do, and that's part of the protocol. So yeah, really dropped the ball on the probe thing, Mike, sorry to say, but you know, it's a good device. This by itself, great device. Probe, you need to think that one through. You need to, you know, it needs to be better, way better. And then of course it doesn't even come with a strap. It just, this is it. Not recommended this one either, because most people want to plug and play, which leads me to the best plug and play out there. The absolute pinnacle of Beck Zappers that you want to get is called the Soda Silver Pulsar. Now these puppies back in the day, I think I paid, I don't know, like under 300, but it was up in the high 200s, right? Now they actually have a Silver Pulsar Lite version, which I haven't looked into what the difference is, but it's a lot cheaper now, under 200, the light model. So this puppy right here is made by that guy, Rob. I forgot his last name, but from Soda Instruments. He's actually one of Bob Beck's, acquaintances back in the day. And so he was the one entrusted by Bob to go ahead and commercialize the blood electrifier. So this is the commercialized blood electrifier that Bob designed and Rob created. It is also a dual mode, dual purpose zapper. So not only can you plug it in, so this is the input jack right here, like there, and that plugs right into this little jack right there, and that's where you get your probes. Their probes are really, really nice. They're basically some kind of plastic wrapped around the metal, so the metal's not touching your skin. Nice touch. Comes with the little felt sleeves. Not so fancy wristband. I mean, everybody needs to work on their wristbands, but it works. But the nice part about it, though, is this guy right here. The probes are really, really nice, and they don't burn you. And then, of course, the other jack right here, if you wanted to, then this jack right there is for the power. If you want to connect the power It's the only one that comes with an AC jack, so if you don't want to use batteries, you can do that. And then this thing can zap and also make colloidal silver. And you set it into silver mode, and you would need to get a different probe for that. It's somewhere in the bag. This is the little case that it comes in, and silver pulsar. And somewhere in this little baggie right in here, I didn't pull it out, is the stuff that you would need to make colloidal silver. And so you can make colloidal silver with this. You can do Beck zapping with this. And the thing that's great about this, in addition to these really, really nice probes, and by the way, the reason that this thing is Velcro is that the sleeves stick to the strap. And I tell you, it's really a silly little thing, but that's a huge deal. That way, your sleeves aren't slipping around, and they just stay put. Once you fit it to your wrist, where you know where you want to put stuff, it just stays there, and all you got to do is put it back on, slide the probes in, make sure they're wet, and off you go. It's so easy to use. But the other thing I really love about it is this guy right here. This is the armband. Now the silver pulsar on the back, you see this little hook thing? It hooks right into the armband, so you don't have to get super fancy like this. It's made for that, so you can wear it on your arm. And let me tell you, when you're doing this thing for 2 hours, you're gonna wanna move around, scratch your face, whatever. I mean, it's so helpful to have the ability to wear the Zapper, because you're wearing it, you're using it for so long. So my go-to recommend, now that the silver smokes are gone, they don't exist anymore, I recommend the Soda Silver Pulsar. They're a company in Canada. You can find it on eBay, you can find it on Amazon, shop around. Sometimes you get a really great deal on a used one for great price. So that's my recommend. There also, there obviously are other manufacturers out there making zappers. These are the ones that I bought. These are the ones that I've tried. And so this is my opinion. Don't flame me if you're the rep for this company. I don't know. Anyway, there you go. That's Beck Zappers. All right, so there you go. So thank you very much for watching the video. Hope this was helpful and educational for you. I know, all of this stuff is kind of confusing if you've never done it before, and probably most people have never even realized there's different types of Beck Zappers. So anyway, I just want to say, hey, thanks. Hope you enjoyed this, or at least got something out of it. If you want to learn more about me, I'm here at the Tinkers Academy blog, YouTube channel. That's pretty much where I basically put out my content, is on my blog and here. I also have a health and healing Telegram chat group where we discuss all of this kinds of stuff. I mean, in depth, everything from bioelectrical magnetics for healing to you name it. I mean, we covered that in chat group. Everyone's welcome to join. I do keep it private to keep the scammers out. So there's a link to the chat group below in the video description, along with a link to my blog. And if you do like this type of content, I'd appreciate if you would like and subscribe. It helps, helps to support the channel. So anyway, thank you very much, guys. Have a great day. Aloha.